Welcome to Coronavirus Your Stories, a programme about how COVID-19 is changing the lives of people around the world. I'm Philippa Thomas. This week we'll be hearing stories of youth activism in the face of this crisis. In the Philippines, we hear about a family aid programme to feed thousands of neighbours who've lost access to jobs and to food because of lockdown. You're watching Coronavirus Your Stories, a programme about how COVID-19 is changing lives around the world. I'm Philippa Thomas. Our third personal story this week comes from the Philippines, where a 24-year-old and her siblings have set up a food aid project because they realised that in their town, lockdown meant the loss of jobs and the loss of access to food for thousands.
Well, my family and I, ever since March, started our Cainta food program, which basically is similar to our own personal relief operations. After 4 months, we've managed to procure and distribute up to 200,000 pieces of food and relief in order to provide for tens of thousands of Cainteños. So ever since March, many have lost, either temporarily or permanently, their main or sometimes only source of income. Because the lockdown has spanned for months long, people have ended up using up all of their savings. People have ended up selling almost all of their items at home just to be able to get whatever form of income they can.
Chantal, you're talking about some essential food. There's also a need for milk for children, for babies.
At our peak, I think I was receiving 30 to 50 messages on Facebook Messenger from different mothers in the community asking for help because their children couldn't just drink water, couldn't drink coffee, sometimes couldn't drink water with sugar. They needed milk. And so we used our general donor fund to procure children's milk on a daily basis and to distribute this milk to the different households of the mothers we were in contact with. So at our peak, we were distributing milk to about 100 mothers every week.
Chantal, this is a lot of work and a lot of organisation for you and your brothers. Tell me something about you and your family. What made you so determined?
My father, Dr. Jet Nieto, and my mother, Dr. Girly Nieto, from the titles themselves, are both doctors. But for majority of their profession, in fact, for my father, for all of his professional career, he's chosen to serve the underserved. He chose to forego a private practice in order to service the patients in government hospitals. Sometimes he hardly charges anything because he feels as if medicine and health, before anything, is service to the people. And I think growing up, this is the type of upbringing we've had, and this has really embedded in us a call to service, a call to use our profession, our capabilities, and our resources to see what kind of impact we can have on others, especially the underserved and the marginalized. And so clearly, when we saw a need in our very hometown, my brothers and I really just had to act.
And what do you think gave you and your brothers the stamina to keep going with a project like this?
So I've been a badminton player for 10 years of my life. I'm pretty sure my coaches, such as Coach Kenny and Coach Vic, have trained me enough to do the heavy lifting on and off the court. My brothers likewise, Mike, Matt, and LeBron, are all national athletes. Well, LeBron still is in high school, but Mike and Matt are national athletes for basketball. I think that the competitive, the driven, and the never say die spirit that was inculcated within us through all those years of athletic training and competing really helped us continue on despite all the challenges, despite all the trials, and despite all the, again, negativity that we may face and that we have been facing over the 4 months that we've been conducting this food program.
And for everyone that you've helped during this time of coronavirus pandemic and lockdown, what are you hearing back? What kind of messages do you get?
Honestly, we've been hearing the best of messages. And I say this not with a boastful heart, but with a very, very grateful heart. People in the communities, especially those that we've reached, that we've helped give milk to, give relief packs to, would send messages, would send videos and pictures of their children with the milk or with the food, really just thanking us for the support and the food or relief we've given them.
Thank you po. Thank you po. Salamat. Salamat po.
And honestly, when you think about it, what did we really just give them? We gave them 5 kilos of rice, 14 pieces of canned goods, maybe a box of milk. To a lot of people, that's nothing. That's something that's part of their grocery list. But to be thanked the way they thank you, it just shows that to them, what you gave, regardless of how small you think it is, actually means the world. To a lot, it might just be their world because they survive on a day-to-day basis. And so, really, you think that when you give, you're the one on the, again, giving end, but really when you give, you're the one on the receiving end because you're touched, you're changed, and you're basically allowed to be the type of person we all were supposed to be, which is basically persons with and for others, especially those who need help and need support the most.
Chantal, would you describe for our viewers around the world what your town, what Cainta is like?
A lot may not know this outside of the Philippines, but Cainta is the catch basin of Manila. So when the typhoons come in, and they do so every year, we always are heavily affected. But this has resulted to us and our people being as resilient, as caring, and as, say, really supportive as we can in terms of, helping one another. So this is really the kind of town that we have. In our language, we have what we call the bayanihan spirit, which is basically a heroic spirit, but a type of heroism that is rooted not in, say, self-glory and strength, but in your ability to reach and help other people out. And over the course of the lockdown, we've seen this bayanihan spirit within our town. Thousands upon thousands of people donating what they can for our marginalized communities. Someone even donated washing machines. So really, I think that if you were to have me describe our town, I'd give you the figures. We have 322,000 people. We're a suburban town. We are small relative maybe to other cities in the country, but we are one of the most resilient, hardworking, and caring people.
And Chantal, I've heard about the resilience in your community, but that resilience is really needed now because I guess in the Philippines as a whole, COVID has hit quite hard.
Yes, indeed. Our cases are still rising, and we still have a lot to change, to improve, and to refine in terms of our programs, our policies, and the support we give out to our marginalized communities and sectors. Resilience really is key, but honestly, more than any form of leadership, I believe in the power and, again, the resiliency of the Filipino people. We've gone through a lot. We've gone through typhoons, through colonialism, through a lot of other factors such as, say, martial law. And we will get through this pandemic because, again, I believe in the power of the Filipino people. I believe that through our wit, our resilience, and our capabilities, we can find a way to change what we have to change, improve what we have to improve, and do what we have to do in order to get through this pandemic even stronger, better, and in greater shape.
Chantal Nieto ending this week's edition on youth activism in the face of coronavirus. I'm Philippa Thomas. Thank you for joining me for Coronavirus Your Stories.